remember at our last board meeting, I think it was our last board meeting, we distributed a mental skills report that came out at the beginning of the year that Jude and his folks published, and we had been using significantly with first the Iowa Economic Development Authority, and then obviously with community colleges and their strategies, and as well as the Department of Education. And it became very clear to us that as we continue on the journey of creating more jobs and bringing more companies to the state of Iowa and working on fulfilling the objective the governor has on job creation, that our labor force and labor supply in Iowa really was facing some of the same things you hear nationally about the middle skills gap as far as the new jobs that are coming and expanding here really need to have candidates who have proficiencies in some of our basic learning skills like reading for information, like applied mathematics and searching for information. Now that report, I'm very proud of Jude and his team, our research team with that report, because it really did come out before some of them, these follow-up informational pieces have come out. About 3 weeks ago or so, ACT, I believe, issued a national report talking about nationally this gap that a lot of our kids come out of high school and they're not work ready, and they don't have some of the proficiency skills at the very foundational levels that employers are looking for when they hire. Then just, I think last week, Brookings came out talking again about this middle skills gap. In Iowa, we know that we have many more jobs available or becoming available in that middle skills area than we have labor skilled, ready to go into those kinds of jobs. And so as we work through the beginning of the year and putting all these data points together, we really believed, and working with ACT and the community colleges, we had a team put together that had representatives from a wide group of folks, including business and economic development and community colleges, really talking about this skills gap and what are the things that we could proactively do to help mitigate what we saw was an issue for Iowa. So from that and from our collaboration with Director Durham and Director Glass came the Skilled Iowa Initiative that we have been working on so hard. And back on June 11th, the governor announced this initiative with Bill Knapp, in that pieces of it are a public-private partnership. The reason it's one piece of it is this public-private partnership is because we in government have no funding streams for marketing. We have a lot of funding streams for training and for education and those sorts of things, but marketing is really not an acceptable activity. Sometimes we work through that and call it outreach, but really a true marketing plan and perspective we do not do and have not done. And so we thought, after much discussion, that it would be really positive if we could have private funds that would deal with the marketing of the initiative while we used our other funding streams, obviously, to continue what we do every day with the training and the education and for people, as well as learning from our community community college partners how well you hook up with business, and business is really defining what their needs are for the future. So out of this project, Skilled in Iowa, with our announcement today, we have in our foundation right around $300,000 that has been raised privately through, I would say, a great resource of Bill Knapp and his commitment of trying to get people to work. From a variety of businesses throughout the state, and we're not done yet, but we do have a wide variety of businesses that include not only Knapp Properties, but Hy-Vee and Wells Fargo and Alcoa, Meredith. We have even community colleges are participating in the private foundation side, which I thought was remarkable. So that effort continues. That's an effort to get the message out that we do have a foundational way. We do have a nationally accepted standard on these fundamental areas for people to use and for businesses to use. And that's with the NCRC certification process, which many manufacturers obviously know about because it is the National Association of Manufacturers standard. They adopted that a couple of years ago. But we've been able to leverage off of that since it is a national standard, and we can clearly see how those proficiencies in those skills cross all of our economic sectors that Director Durham and her team are working so hard at expansion and bringing forth into the state of Iowa. So with the opportunity then to market and with the opportunity to put together this foundational base, we actually went back to ACT, and it's really a great story because obviously ACT is an Iowa company. And while they do many things internationally, we have had several meetings with them involving our contract and the fees associated with NCRC and Key-Train and so forth. And just and of course they are a very willing participant with this, and we're at the announcement when the governor and Mr. Knapp made the announcement. And he came to me and said, we will do what we need to do so that we can really work our way through this positively. So as of last week, we do have a new contract with ACT. We just signed it. And it does involve all of the remediation as well as the testing and the opportunity to not be so narrow in how we proctor test and who can proctor test, and so they have given us a great amount of latitude as long as we follow the prescriptive things that we identified in the contract to find even more cost-efficient ways to the delivery of the tests, to the proctoring of the tests, to actually helping us get this foundational skill throughout the state of Iowa. We've also then put some metrics together so that we can measure ourselves and how are we doing in progressing. We have measurements to a couple of metrics around businesses. We have a couple of metrics around our labor supply so we can tell how we're doing. We have just begun our journey, I guess, that will take place over the next many years, because this is not something that will be accomplished in a month or two. It's just a change of the fabric of Iowa. The opportunity is in our high schools now, and Denise will talk to you about a lot of the specifics, but in the same trip that we made to Washington, D.C. That I mentioned before, we did make it a point to discuss this initiative with all of our delegation as well as the Department of Labor. We met with Jane Oates and one of her assistants and talked through this, and they are excited about it. We're working through, obviously, all of the wrinkles of new initiative and project. At that meeting, she, under Assistant Secretary Oates, was the one who said, Teresa, you have got to get to the annual NASWA conference and talk about the veteran piece of this, because it's a substantive piece, and we can show some really great strides in working with our partners at the armories. And so this is our long-term Skilled Iowa strategy. We want to be able to use it in branding in the future, but of course we have to work on our metrics, I think, before we can really brag about Skilled Iowa, because we have a ways to go. But I can tell you that with all the energy that we have had over the last 6 or 8 weeks, setting up the right processes, setting up the right enforcement pieces that we need to have in all of the segments, that it is really by all groups that I have visited with or who are interested in this, are very interested in the continuing pursuit of this. Communities want to be able to use it to brand their communities. Cities want to be able to use it to brand their cities. And of course we're saying, yeah, that's all a great strategy, but we have to hit some metrics before we can really use it as branding, because if you're going to brag that you are something, we have to be able to demonstrate that somehow with the metrics. Jude's people and in our research arm are going to be the group that really collects the metrics, so it will be based on BLS information, it will be, the metrics will be downloaded every month, just like we do our unemployment map by county, and they will be available, the metrics, for whatever groups want to define themselves, or counties, or throughout the state. So I would offer, after we hear a little bit more about it today from Denise, that if this group would also like to get the metrics on a regular basis, we can obviously send that out along with sending out our unemployment county map as well. So with that, I think, Denise, I'm going to turn it back over to you, and you can explain in more detail some of those items.
Thank you, Director. So what is Skilled Iowa? Skilled Iowa utilizes the National Career Readiness Certificate, NCRC. What that is it allows job seekers and employers to better determine the baseline of skills, and provides a resource to improve those skills. So that's a way for employers to find a qualified workforce. It's an opportunity for workers to upgrade their skills, because it will provide them with a way to demonstrate or display what those skills are in a portable certificate that they can take with them throughout their career. Testing is readily available for all citizens throughout the state at any of our workforce development locations, and that is at no cost through the Skilled Iowa program. And it's also an economic development strategy for Iowa communities. It's a way for communities to demonstrate that they do in fact have highly skilled, certified workforce for current and expanding businesses. The Skilled Iowa, as the director said, it adopts and embraces the 3 fundamental skills of applied mathematics, reading for information, and locating information. Those are the 3 skill areas that are tested with the NCRC. In order to build up to take that NCRC, we do also make available to anyone who's interested, especially those people within the Skilled Iowa program, the ability to use KeyTrain, which is another ACT WorkKeys element. That KeyTrain will allow them to take a pretest, determine where their baseline skills are, and build from there in preparation of taking the NCRC, and that will allow them to do the best that they possibly can and get the highest certificate that they can. There are 4 levels of certificate. They can get a bronze, a silver, a gold, or a platinum level. The goals of the Skilled Iowa initiative, as we see on the screen, Number one, increase the number of employers that recognize and support the National Career Readiness Certificate. How do they do that? What we do is we ask them to sign a Skilled Iowa NCRC letter of agreement. And with that, we ask that they have at least one position within their organization that is NCRC preferred. Now, does that mean that that individual that they hire into or already holds that position, that they absolutely have to have that NCRC? No, but we would certainly want them to work to attain that NCRC. And we also ask that they allow us to use their business's name within our marketing and advertising endeavors. Second goal is to increase the number of Iowa job seekers holding the NCRC added to their portfolios and resumes. So in order for Iowa workers to increase their skills so that we can then decrease that skill gap that we've been talking about this morning within the state, we want them to take that NCRC. And then we want them, our staff will work them through on how to use that to market their skills, market that NCRC, and get it on their resumes. And as I said, we're making training available to all Iowans, free of cost, throughout the state, beginning as low as the 9th grade. And we're creating a pathway for connecting unemployed Iowans with career opportunities. Why is the Skilled Iowa Initiative needed? We want to improve the quality of Iowa's workforce with the existing, those people who are already employed, the transitioning workforce, those people who are unemployed but are wanting to become re-employed, and the emerging workforce, which is those individuals graduating from high schools or community colleges. We want to fill the jobs of current employers and prospective Iowa employers. We're specifically trying to target some of those more hard to fill, some of those positions that we're lacking the skilled workers for those employers. One of the ones that we hear most about is welders within the state. We're identifying the skills needed to fill open Iowa jobs. And we're ensuring that Iowa's workforce has the skill set sought by employers now and in the future. This eye chart shows at the very top, those are the group of people within the state of Iowa who received the NCRC. As of last week, that was 15,600 plus individuals within the state who have received some level of certification. It feathers down and it breaks down into different industries that they're using those NCRCs within. The first one, the one that's using it the most, is manufacturing, followed by administrative and support services. Then we see retail trade. This is the third largest group. The fourth largest being accommodation and food services, and then healthcare and social assistance. But you can also see that all those other industries are also starting to use the NCRC. Skilled Iowa Internship Program. This is a piece of the overall program. It's linking job seekers with businesses looking to hire, but more importantly, willing to provide job skills training. So these are unpaid internships that will provide training opportunities for unemployed Iowans. One of our primary target groups are those individuals currently receiving unemployment insurance benefits with enough weeks remaining on their claims to complete an internship. Those individuals will continue to receive their unemployment insurance benefits while they're doing the training program. And we'll do that by placing them on department-approved training. Each internship will last up to 8 weeks. The participant or the intern will be in training with the business up to 24 hours per week, with the remaining up to 16 hours being spent doing work on the key train element of ACT. So we're going to have them building their skill set so that they can take that NCRC at the end of their internship. Skilled Iowa Communities, which is really probably the heart of this whole initiative. It's going to be a valuable tool to attract new businesses to any area because they're going to be able, with the use of that NCRC certification, they will be able to prove that they have the skilled workforce needed to fill current and future jobs, and it's going to attract businesses to their areas, so that they'll be able to have some economic growth opportunities as well. Skilled Iowa communities are areas across the state that are determined by either zip code, a county, multiple counties, or a region. In order to become a skilled Iowa community, we've identified these 4 metrics. The first one is the current labor force be certified at 5% for that community. So that current labor force is those individuals who are currently employed. The transitioning labor force certified at 20% are those individuals who are unemployed but willing to accept employment. The percent of total businesses partnering, those are the businesses who have signed that National Career Readiness Certificate letter of commitment, 10%. And we're asking that 20% of their employees become certified. Now, these are attainable goals, but somewhat lofty. As soon as a community reaches 80% of the metrics, we are going to give them the Skilled Iowa Community designation. If at any point that they fall below that 8%, we're not going to yank it away from them, but we're going to give them a period of time, at least a couple years, to regain that designation and keep building on that towards that 100% goal. And these are the Skilled Iowa partners: STEM, Workforce Development, Iowa Economic Development Authority, the Iowa Department of Education, Iowa Businesses, Educational Community, and Iowa Association of Business and Industry. Any questions? Yes?
On the 5% of a community's labor force, are you defining that as a labor shed area, or what's defining the geography of their labor market area?
That's within the Skilled Iowa community, and it will be however they determine that community to be. So it could be by zip code or zip codes. It could be by county. It could be by multiple counties. Right now we're breaking it out into county, and we're working to be able to provide it by zip code.
So for example, I've been up to the Cedar Valley Alliance area, Waterloo, Cedar Falls, and all of that area, working with their economic development group, and Steve Dust, who is the president of their alliance. And they're, for instance, very interested in the Skilled Iowa community concept, and so Steve and his board has told us what the counties are that they include in their serving territory. And it's those counties then that they have told us they want to include as their community to then get the statistical information from Jude's area. That's not to say that, or it doesn't preclude then maybe the city of Waterloo wants to pursue something as well, or the city of Des Moines wants to pursue something, as well as the Greater Des Moines Partnership, or so one does not preclude the other. They can both, whatever.
Are you going to allow that economic development organization to look at what the different geography numbers run out before they decide?
No.
Because I mean, use Sally's example. She could look at Fayette, look at Fayette County, look at Oelwein, or look at the labor shed. You're going to want to know which one meets the 5% of the workforce and use that. I mean, you're going to.
That's right.
Yeah.
In there, you refer to the education community. How do they fit into this from a training versus a curriculum and ninth grade and so on? How do those two relate that begin to change education delivery through the high school, for example? How does that work in your mind?
Director, do you want to respond to that one?
We have ongoing conversations with the Director Glass in the Department of Education on that issue. We then took this concept and the opportunity through technology to be able to access not only this information, but a lot of other information that we have on jobs and where jobs are, how much they pay, what are the skills that people need. And all of that is included on our virtual access technology. And met with all of the AEAs throughout the state. And they all have had demos, have seen the technology, and 100% endorsed the deployment of that into high schools. So then we have a team that Ed Wallace is chairing that is now working on getting this information, which includes the testing and the key training components and that sort of information on the technology. And our goal, I don't know if we'll hit it, but our goal is that we're working very hard to be in all the high schools before the end of the year. And you know, all the high schools have differing technologies. But fortunately, our technology works on all of them. And I can tell you that to date, we're over 110 high schools out of 321 that we're working on, and we have a schedule and a map, and they're very excited because it's a way to guide students and their parents. It's a way to say, here are the jobs that are in our areas. If you want to stay here, here's the kinds of proficiencies you have to have. You can test yourself all the way through the 9th grade. You can, whenever you sign up and want to, you have access at home at night or in school to do some of your self-paced training and go through the key train aspects of it. Teachers are already wanting to fold these kinds of concepts into the fundamentals of what they're teaching. We're seeing that in many of the high schools. We are not in the business of curriculum development, so we will not go into that area. But the Department of Education has endorsed the technology and endorsed the content that we have. It is one more tool in their toolbox. It is one way that ACT would tell you that you can test to see if you're work ready when at any time, but it certainly is not in any way, shape, or form mandatory for high schools to do this. So it's just another tool that they have among many tools to help kids from the 9th grade on to have more of understanding what the business world is like, what some of the requirements are in the business world, and as the example that we use a lot is whether you want to be a scientist or a physician, or whether you want to be a welder, or whether you want to be in culinary arts, or pick the area. These are the fundamentals of being able to have any stacked credentials beyond this. So certainly you may end up going to more formal education, but you might not. And you might decide that you really like to build things and construct things, and you're really interested in welding, and you're having a lot of trouble with math and geometry. Well, it's a tool that can measure how you're progressing, and if you have to take additional coursework or have some additional tutoring in these areas before you ever get out of high school, it's another way to demonstrate that to students and parents and teachers and counselors through the 9th through the 12th grade.
Yes.
I've got several questions, Denise, but let me just preface it by saying that my institution and our community colleges are very, very strong components of the NCRC.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we need to understand that the NCRC is an assessment of foundational employability skills. I think the thing that has jumped out at me when I first saw the press release on this particular initiative, and my feeling hasn't changed since, that there's a huge gaping hole in this initiative that needs to be filled. And that is nowhere in this initiative, on the website and promotional materials, anything that talks about how to transition an underskilled, unemployed, unskilled individual into skilled training. Some of the original marketing pieces on this talked about participants in the Skilled Iowa program will take the National Career Readiness Certificate test, and the results can be used to place test takers into internships for skilled positions. Well, you're not going to place an individual into a welding job, as a truck driver, as a web developer, as a pharmacy technician. I could rattle off 100 different career pathways without the certification of those skills to even get in the door in the first place. And so, as I'm looking at this, it just seems to me to be a huge missed opportunity, particularly in light of the fact that, again, working in partnership with our legislative colleagues, putting into place the framework for doing this in a organized, systemic way in terms of putting a career pathways framework in place across the state of Iowa through our community colleges, putting funding into place to help pay the tuition expenses for short-term, non-credit skill certificates, which we have found to be one of the more effective ways of getting underskilled individuals onto a skill-building pathway and into those entry-level jobs that we're talking about in this initiative. And I just, for the life of me, there is not a breath of any of that in this initiative, and that just seems like a huge gaping hole and a missed opportunity to be marketing to our employer community and, most importantly, to Iowans how they access those kinds of opportunities to get themselves the job skills that they're ultimately going to need to be hired into these jobs. Now, we use the NCRC extensively in every one of those in our delivery of non-credit skill certificate programs. They come out the door with, that CNA, but they're also coming out the door with the NCRC. And we've worked hard in our region so that our employers understand that they're, it's an additional indicator of potential success in the workplace, coupled with the hard skills that they got to have to get the job.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious why there is no provision for that in this proposal.
Well, I can answer that in part, and I think that's a great topic, because obviously in all of our unemployment and all of our training, even when we go to things like promise jobs and welfare kinds of processes that we go through, and helping people who are unskilled, who are trying to get rid of barriers in their life to get to work, which may or may not be educational in nature. We are building this into all of our processes so that, and that's what we can do. We can certainly and will go with you arm in arm to the legislature for funding on all the things that you mentioned. I think they're all very important. But for instance, we have really never been as focused as we are right now on training individuals, every single kind of individual and circumstance, in foundational skills. Not just helping them get the bus fare that they need to get to a job, but also to give them skills to do this. So in our unemployment process, and in our RES and RIA processes, when we call unemployed people to come back to do an assessment of their skills, we're building in the foundational 3 areas and helping them go through the key training, so actually they will have an assessment of their skills and they will be able to, out of the process, be accredited in some form or fashion. We are building it into the Promise Jobs process so that we not only help people find employment and help them break the cycle of welfare, but also are training to a specific model of the three foundational areas that we know most jobs in the state of Iowa are going to require. So we are embedding it in all of our training processes, in our one-stops, in our various programs that we partner with other agencies with, so that if there is a common thread through the people that we touch and the people that we can touch, through unfortunate circumstance or through any other kind of a partnership, that we will work with them to get and to be able to prove the kinds of foundational skills they need to take the next step. We are not saying, Steve, that if you have a bronze certificate that you can be a welder tomorrow. But what we are saying is we will at least know, and so will business know, that you have a proficiency in those three critical areas, that you have the capability of being trained in those areas. As you know, all of your programs, you come out with great stacked credentials in all of your programs, and Kirkwood is far and away one of the best at the NCRC and the marketing that you've done with businesses to understand those foundational skills. And we just think that it's that very concept of foundational skills that does need to get built into all of our other training and all of our other processes. And we've really never focused the totality of a plan into that. So I think you're correct. It is a great opportunity in the middle of the program to assess those kinds of folks as well, and to encourage them in a structured way to go through and start their journey for proficiency in skills.
I guess my observation is, as I look at the way in which it's being marketed, promoted, that kind of gets lost in all of that. And I think that's a concern. We're starting to get feedback from our economic development partners, from businesses who are being called upon and encouraged to participate in Skilled Iowa. And at the same time, some of our colleges have been working with these folks on other things, and it's becoming very, very confusing because it's almost become, because the rest of this is not incorporated into it, just kind of a freestanding initiative by itself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's some danger in that.
Well, you're correct with the marketing, because we really haven't started the marketing plan yet. So it's a good addition now that we can incorporate in our marketing.
Well, I'd be very curious to know what it is you're going to be marketing.
Well, we're going to be marketing the opportunity for Iowans to have a way to be credentialed and to have a portable credentialing that goes with them wherever they go, as you well know, in these three fundamental areas that we know businesses in every segment are going to need to have the fundamental proficiency in reading for information.
And we could not agree more with all of
Totally
that.
agree.
But at the end of the day, when 19% of the Iowans that are registering in our integrated centers don't have a GED or high school diploma, 54% of them have a high school diploma or GED but no post-secondary training or education, which means they're not eligible for entry into most of the jobs that are now being identified for internship opportunities. 22% have some post-secondary training or education but no credential.
Correct.
That's where we need to be focused. And that's
Correct.
where I think, again, the collaborative work we've been doing with the legislature for the last 3 or 4 years has been really focused on that. We've got to find a way of moving those underskilled Iowans onto some skill building pathways. And I think where a little bit of the disconnect occurs in all of this is that the career pathways structure that we've now put into the statute provides for the establishment of sector boards, whether it's in the advanced manufacturing sector or the construction trades or allied health programs, whatever the case might be, to convene panels of employers that work with our community colleges and our other partners to identify what those entry-level jobs are, what the skill requirements are, to make sure that the short-term skill certified programs that we're delivering are in concert and aligned with all of that, so that there's a structure and a logic to all of this. And again, I just Without that skill building piece incorporated into this initiative, I just think it's missing a great opportunity to, given the interest on the part of the employer community to get behind this, to really move this forward in a very, very constructive way with some much better outcomes.
Well, why don't you and I visit
Be happy
about
to-
that?
be
Because
happy to
I'd
do
be
that,
happy
please.
to include all those ideas and whatever we need to do to
Be happy to do that. I
great,
appreciate that.
okay.
I have a question.
But if I could just
Okay.
add one more thing, excuse me. And then in this particular publication, we encountered this issue when we got this basic same information, again, from the LMI team, when we were working on the skilled worker shortage tuition grant program and trying to identify what those skilled shortage areas were going to be that would be eligible for funding out of that appropriation. And for example, if you go to page 16, which is dealing with manufacturing training, under the typical entry education level that's listed here, in any of these, it makes totally no sense. Industrial machinery mechanics would be our industrial maintenance technician. The typical entry education level is high school diploma or equivalent. And that's almost true the entire down the page here for CNC machinists, for all the skilled kind of things. You go to the health areas, very similar situation. Transportation, under automotive service technicians and mechanics, high school diploma or equivalent. That's just not, that might have been true 40 or 50 years ago, but it's not true today. And so I would encourage you to take a look at this in terms of how it's labeled. We start sending this kind of information out to our middle schools and high schools in terms of information pieces, which is really important to get this kind of information in their hands, but not really understanding what the real entry-level skills are, or the education levels are to, at a minimum level, to get into some of these jobs. And another example would be in the IT section. On page 26, on every single one of the items listed there under computer systems analysts, software developers, etc., typical entry education level bachelor's degree, all the way down the list, every single one of them. I had the opportunity to work with IBM when they were operationalizing their facility in Dubuque, and their primary target audience were two-year IT graduates to staff that particular facility. So I just would encourage you to really look at this thoughtfully and make sure that wherever this information is being derived from, and do that and where it comes from, but it caused some real angst for us when we were trying to analyze this and build the skilled worker shortage framework for the KIBI tuition grant.
Yeah, well, just so you know, the resource for that is the Career Pathways resource that Paula Nissen mutually uses in the publication that she does on the community college behalf as well. And so that's the resource of the information. But I'll certainly take your comments back.
Let's just take a look at it.
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Steve, that comes out of the ONET system.
Yes, he does.
And so the unfortunate thing is the categories they put in and how they profile
Yeah,
those occupations.
yeah, it's just real world. Yeah, it is a real world.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I gotta wonder if we need to look on those is look at what we could pull out of the, synchronous system of, the existing employers are telling us across the state of skills and demand in that, and also from what community colleges are finding for their jobs. So
We'd be very interested in working with you on that because, again, we've had a real struggle trying to come up with a really effective way to, we almost have to equate skill shortage areas with high demand
Right.
areas.
Right, right.
We know they're kind of one and the same, but we have to be very careful about what the legislature intended with all of that, and we're trying to navigate our way through that as best we can. There's some more current, effective ways of helping advise us, even on a regional basis.
Right.
That, again, we can work with the legislature to modify those requirements going forward.
Well,
That'd be extremely helpful.
it's also important that we include this whole conversation with our STEM initiatives too, because I know that they are using some of their measurements off the ONET information that are on the databases as well. So I'll put together 5 or 6 of us that are all working on metrics like that, so we can be consistent in where we research that.
While we're looking at metrics, can we look at the wages? Because frankly, I don't care if it's a high demand job.
Yeah.
If it's only paying
Yeah.
$8 an hour,
Yeah.
why are we wasting the state's precious resources creating training opportunities for people who are going to qualify for every single social safety net program that this state has? That is not economic development, and it's not a wise investment of the limited training dollars that we have available.
Right.
I have a
This
question.
Francis Gunn, if I may just jump in here a little bit. It may be all good and fine, but I think you got to be a little more pragmatic. We don't want folks to jump through all kinds of hoops for a piece of paper that isn't meaningful in their search for work. And so I think you'll find that folks out there are a lot sharper than we give them credit for. So we need. I guess I agree with Steve that if we're going to make them, or if they're going to jump through hoops and get a certificate, it's better be able to get them a job. That's the end result that we're looking for. Just having folks jump through hoops and be certified with no meaning. That's kind of a waste of everybody's time, money, and energy, and especially the people who we're trying to serve.
I'd like to comment kind of on that a little bit. I've got some questions about ensuring that the individuals that do, for example, with the unpaid internship, you're on unemployment benefits. You are sold that if I go to work for 24 hours a week for this employer, I'm going to demonstrate my skill set so possibly I can get employed. You're working basically for free. I mean, you're getting your unemployment benefits. So I'm going to work for this employer for 24 hours a week, three days a week. I could sit at home and get the same money, but I want to improve myself. I want to demonstrate that I have some skills. Maybe I tested on the bronze level and nobody's hired me because they want everybody's platinum and gold. And so I go to this employer and I work for 24 hours a week on welding. Where is the insurance that that person is really getting some kind of a skill set that's really portable? And I'll tell you why I'm concerned is because when I was an employment training specialist, I wrote under Job Training Partnership Act on the job training programs where you would hire, an employer would hire an individual and they would get 50% of their wages paid for a period of time depending on the difficulty of the job that they were hired with, and they were supposed to be able to develop a skill set that was of some value. Well, in going back and checking on these individuals to make sure they're showing up, I'm finding out that they go to an employer, they tell them, well, here's a welder and a welding rod, get to work, and that's basically the training they get for 24 hours for, doing nothing. I mean, they're not getting anything for their portable skills. So now we're asking people to go to these employers, and I think employers would be jumping through hoops to get people. I get somebody for 20 hours or 24 hours a week to work for free, and they don't demonstrate their skill sets to me, and I get a new set of individuals. So what are we doing to ensure that when those individuals are actually working for an employer for basically no enhanced benefits, that they will get those portable skills, and that maybe if that employer doesn't help them hire them, that they can go to somebody else and said that I work for company B or A over here, and I've got a skill that I can move forward with. Because I'm like with Steve on this thing. I see there's some major gaps, and any new program is going to have difficulty. But where's the insurance that we do get those enhancements, and that person isn't just being taken advantage of, that they're really benefiting from this process? Because to me, it seemed pretty difficult. If I don't see a guarantee on the end side of it, why would I go and volunteer my efforts for 3 days a week for no real benefit other than I'm helping that employer out with the
Right.
hope that he might hire me or she?
And those are all those are all perfect questions, Senator. And we have been changing our processes to address those. I can tell you that one of the issues that we have is we have to be able to clearly demonstrate that we adhere to the Fair Labor Standards Act. And in Fair Labor Standards Act, the criteria for being able to have an opportunity for a voluntary internship is that you have to prove that the training program is to the benefit of the person. No, they are not working for you. They are not on your payroll. They are not doing a job for you as an employer. You are training the individual for portable skills. So we have a process that we have to sign off, the lawyers have to sign off on the training program or the training plan that the company proposes. And we have all of the, there's 6 criteria, we have them here, if you, we can give you copies of this, that are very explicitly not only communicated to the employer, but also to an intern if they want to try to do this voluntary internship. And no, you cannot guarantee a job at the end because that violates the Fair Labor Standards Act. So we've already been down that road with DOL and understand that. And so we not only have our attorneys reviewing every single training plan, we also have a person in place now who is going to be monitoring that. So this person will actually go to the job site during the middle of the curriculum that has been given to us by an employer to make sure that the curriculum is being followed and that it is for the benefit of the person, not for the company. And so all these things, everything you said.
Well, I don't see this as any different than what happened 25 years ago. The employers signed contracts then that said that they were going to train individuals. And I went back, and we had staff to do it back then. Where is the staff going to come from that's going to keep an eye on it? Because once you develop a case law and you've got about 10 individuals out there, or 20, and I had over 60 to 70 people I was working with directly that were placed in on-the-job training programs, I had hardly any time. All I had to do was went from one place to the next to ensure that they were abiding by this. Where's the staff going to come from that they're going to be able to keep up on it? Because those employers were signing on the dotted line. They were, yeah, heck yeah, I agree to all that stuff. But in reality, it really never happened unless there was somebody there pushing them and to make sure that they were really doing what they said they were going to do.
I agree.
And that's a real issue.
That is a real issue. And that's why we're being very careful on the internship piece of this program. I can tell you today we have no employers that have signed up. Just so you don't think that we have 450 employers signing up for free labor. We have several who are interested in the program, but they have not yet given us a training plan. Some are in process of giving us a training plan. So it's not that they just sign on the dotted line. We have to really go out and be able to see the program, to be able to see the supervision of the program, to be able to see that the individual is receiving the benefit from the training, because it's clear that that is the intention of the Fair Labor Standards Act, and we are going to be following it. So we have our lawyers working on it full-time. Nick can tell you he's in the middle of going through training programs. And so this is not going to be a widespread program. It is a program that can be used when companies do have clearly a developmental training program for people who then have an opportunity and a relationship with an employer who might have a job they might not otherwise know about or be able to be connected with. So far in this program, we've had one intern. And we have amended the program and processes since that. Our one intern was a veteran who had 7.5 weeks left on their unemployment insurance. And the company that we were working with to work through the processes and the holes in the process, as you can you know that we will always have to work through. And we went through a process with them for about 2.5 weeks of training, the lumber supply process and understanding the types of woods and how you deliver them and so forth. And after 2.5 weeks, the company hired him full-time. And so, first of all, one good thing about that was the company did not abuse the intern, hired them full-time as soon as they knew that they were going to do it anyway. They didn't go for the whole 8 weeks, which you can do. It doesn't have to be a required 8 weeks. The good thing about it, I just think generally, is that it was a veteran and we were able to connect them and they never would have connected to this job. So that I thought was good. We learned a lot about what are the important things we have in place to assure that people are not abused and that companies don't use this as a free labor market, because it's not, and that we meet expectations of DOL. And so we have changed a lot of things. Now, does that mean it's perfect yet? No. I'd be foolish to say yes. But we do have a lot of rigor in place now that I don't think anybody has ever had before, in mind that we are really trying to protect the individual, but at the same time, open a few doors that perhaps were not necessarily open to those individuals prior to being able to make these matches. Now, we make the matches off ONET codes. So let's say you're Gilchrist Jewett and you have this kind of a job opening that you think you're going to post the job anyway, so there's no guarantee of a job, and they tell us the ONET codes, and we go to the unemployment ranks. We give veterans preference in that, always. But we search for individuals who have those ONET codes on their unemployment insurance or on their workers' application that they make. And we don't pick the person. We say to the company, do you want us to send you 3 individuals or 10, or you screen them yourselves based on your rules, but here's how we will get them. And then the company will make the choice as to which individual or individuals they want to train on the individual's perspective. And so we don't make that choice or decision. The company does, because the company can obviously know better what they're looking for long-term in their strategy and their skill sets. And that's how that one happened to be made. And it was a good story because it was a veteran. Did we hit every mark that you mentioned and every mark that perhaps DOL will look at? No. And we know that, and we're working with DOL as we speak.
Well, I understand what you're saying, Director, and I don't have a problem with that. I think we need to provide opportunities. My concern is that when you get involved in a program, you come out with certifiable skills that are portable, that you can move from one employer to the next, and the next employer would recognize that whatever effort that individual put in, that they're going to transfer. Because when you're an individual who's an IR and you're looking to hire people, you're looking for what skills do they bring to the table, and that's what I think with Steve and I agree with his concerns about it. And we don't want to put people down paths that end up where they're putting an effort in, where they're not getting a positive result. Now, that example you gave, I mean, that's the way you want it to work. That's what we want. We want people, employers, to take a look at people maybe where they wouldn't have in the past, knowing that they got an opportunity to demonstrate what they're going to be able to do. And that guy got hired, but if he didn't, that veteran didn't get hired, where was he going to be on the next step when his unemployment benefits ran out? Whereas could he went to a community college and got a short-term training program that had certifiable skills, and he could walk away with that, that's something marketable to another employer, because now he ran out of unemployment benefits because he spent it all with an employer that he didn't really get a certified skill with. That's my concern about what happens if you don't have a success, because you said yourself that there's no guarantee that employer is going to hire him, and we understand that.
Well, the deal too, Senator, is that it's a voluntary thing. I mean, if an individual is on unemployment and they want to take a community college curriculum, it's fine. I mean, we're not forcing people to be in this program.
Say that, but I want to tell you, I think what this department is doing is you have walked away from that one-on-one personal service to get people to go to access points to find things off of computers, where before you had employment training specialists, individuals who understood where the demand occupations were going to be, and they talked to people who are on unemployment benefits, and they said, you know what, Jane or Joe, if you went and got this skill, I can tell you that there are employers in our area and around the area that they would hire you because you have a certified skill and you've got unemployment benefits left. You ought to take advantage of that, and now with the Iowa legislature putting additional resources in some of these pathways for career development, you know, here's a chance for you. Versus somebody going to a website saying, well, I can get, you know, this kind of opportunity work experience. It's your choice. Is that the best choice? That's what I'm concerned about. And so I want to make sure that even though they're taking a chance, that we're not setting them up for something that when they walk away from it, they're going to wonder what they did and what they got out of it. And that's my concern. I know that at the beginning of every program, you're going to have problems with. But we need to have programs that we're marketing across the state that are more like, that have a solid outcome opportunities from it versus, you know, a story that sounds good, but in the end, you don't have the successes you really need. That's my concern.
Appreciate that.